programmed get-together as a class for the semester. I wanted to go over any questions everybody might have, talk about what I'm seeing, and remind everybody about what the final is going to be and everything like that. If that's all right. And I think the first person who did the extra credit weekly reflection on Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan was Ryan, and he did an excellent job and applied all the tools of artistic critique to a movie, and it was really well done.
Thank you. I think that extra credit was for the other class, though.
Yeah, it was for the 2720, but excuse me, out of both classes, you were the first one to do it.
Well, I'll get the one for this class in tonight.
All right, excellent. That extra credit for this class is you get to watch the movie Hero with Jet Li. Oh, wait a sec. I think somebody already did do that. So you're first with 2720. Let me see. I think somebody might have done. Let me check. Excuse me. All right, Aubrey's Hill here.
Here.
For whatever reason, my computer is going a little bit slow tonight. Let's see. Okay. Yes, the extra credit weekly reflection for this class is watching the movie Hero with Jet Li. And it looks like this is really odd. My computer is not responding. All right, let's try that again. And for this extra credit one, you just need to apply the 4 tools of artistic critique and do like a regular weekly reflection, but it's on a movie that is specific to the class. So let's see, and I'm going to try to find the one that was turned in for this, the first one that was turned in for this class. There we go. It was Aubrey who did it. Aubrey Summer. So she's not here tonight. But I did think she deserved extra mention. Yeah, she did a really good breakdown of the movie Hero and tied it in to the time frame of our class. The reason why Hero is good is that it takes place during the Warring States period as Emperor Qin is making China into the country we recognize today. And it has Jet Li in it. So I figured anytime we can get extra credit with Jet Li, that's awesome. And then Ryan had done the first one for the 2720 class, which had to do with Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. The only thing that I think is kind of sad is that these are both the best reflections that anybody's done for the class so far, the extra credit ones. All right. Again, I'm sorry about that. My computer is being a little bit slow today. If you are missing any of the spoken parts, let me know. but my camera is most likely going to be a little bit jerky, and I don't understand why. That's kind of frustrating. Right. As of Tuesday, everything that had been turned in was graded, and people have been turning in a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff has been showing up. So I was not able to yesterday and the day before. I was not able to do a whole lot because I was on the road, but I'm going to try to get everything caught up by tonight, grade wise, and as I see stuff turned in, I will grade it and put it on. One thing that makes me very happy is that a lot of people are behind on their weekly reflections, and they've been able to get a lot of those done. Or projects. Like over Thanksgiving break, one person did 5 of the 6 projects over Thanksgiving break, which I thought was really excellent. How do you guys feel you're doing in the class? Are you guys pretty confident that you're doing okay? Okay. There's a couple things I wanted to mention, and this is something that we've talked about every week for the last couple of months. But since we aren't meeting in class, the comments that I make on the things that you turn in are really important to look at if you didn't get perfect points. And then you can submit as many times as you want to get the points done. There's been a couple people who, yes, Aubrey.
When is the last day to resubmit for credit? Like if we need to make some adjustments to things.
Well, that's the same as the due date. You can resubmit and submit up until the bitter end of the class. Now I'm going to be taking some students to Capitol Reef on Friday. So, and that means that instead of Friday the 13th being the cutoff date, everybody has an extra 2 days. I'll be back on Sunday night. So you can continue turning stuff in. The problem
become a student that gets to go to Capitol Reef with you.
It's with another school that I'm teaching at. So if you're a student at UVU, then you can come. But what that means is you can turn stuff in through the 15th now. And that will still give me time to get the grades in order and stuff. The problem with that comes, though, is with Canvas, I think it's locked on midnight on Friday the 13th. And you can't submit anything through there. But rather than do that, go to my email. You have my official UVU email. Don't email me through the Canvas site. Email me directly. And if you need to turn in things after the 13th, email them directly to me. Tell me who you are, which class you're in, and exactly which assignments you're emailing in as files or whatever. And on that case, you won't be able to resubmit anything. So make sure that everything is in order. And that also you won't be able to do anything with the discussions because the discussions are locked at the same time Canvas is. But if you have extra projects or extra weekly reflections that need to be done, you can email those to me directly after the 13th. All right? Does everybody understand that? Okay. So I wanted to talk about a couple things. One is everybody has gotten a lot better with the citations. It used to be that everybody was, remember what the standard is for citation?
MLA alphabetized?
Yes.
And access date.
Right. And what was interesting is at the very beginning of the term, even though I said that in every video, 1 out of 4 people actually did it or less. Almost, very few people did. Now it's almost the opposite. It's really rare that somebody doesn't have everything alphabetized, somebody doesn't have all the MLA things. So if you're missing just a couple points, that is a really good thing to check on. Make sure that you've got that squared away. And I'll always say it, or it will be in the rubric thing, that's screwed up. There's been a couple projects where people didn't submit any citations at all. And some of you said, well, it's from my own personal experience. There should be citation anyway. There is an MLA format for an interview, and you can do an interview with yourself and then do a citation of that. So, and it's incredibly adaptable. All you have to do is look up on your web browser of choice, MLA format citation for personal interview, and it will pop up. And then if you spoke to one of the elders of the Parowan, if you spoke to, or Paiute, or if you spoke to a museum guide, or if you even wrote down notes from your own personal experience, that it's good to have that, because then you still are including a citation. All right? Does everybody understand that? Okay. So for Aubrey's question, circling back around to that, everything is going to be due midnight on Sunday, but everything is due on Canvas midnight on Friday, because Canvas is locked. And that's when I would say the due date, that is probably going to be the final date for resubmission, unless you're going to make the changes and email them to me on Saturday or Sunday. But anything that you send after Friday, you're not going to be able to do any sort of resubmission. Does that kind of address your question, Aubrey? Okay. So does anybody have any other questions about the stuff that we're doing?
Yeah, you said the close-off date for, what's the close-off date for everything? Is it like the 13th?
The 15th. The 15th.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On the 13th is when Canvas shuts down. And if you still need to submit some weekly reflections or whatever, you can email them to me directly after the 13th. So don't freak out if you still have some things to turn in and Canvas has locked you out. Don't stress about it too much. You can email them to me. You just need to make sure that you email them to my university email. You have your name and the class and exactly which assignments you are emailing, and each assignment is labeled. That part seems kind of obvious to me, but I've actually had students where all the assignments were lumped into the same document, and the order didn't make any sense at all. And that was a bit problematic.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
don't do that.
Also,
So again,
Aubrey, your hand is still raised.
So as you are moving forward, remember, Canvas locks you out midnight, December 13th, and you can still email assignments up to midnight, December 15th. All right? Is anybody, I noticed that there are still several people that need to do the final project. Does everybody have their, the proposal, the email proposal in? Because I've graded all the proposals I've gotten, I've graded. That's really important because we did have somebody have a really great idea for a project, and their proposal came a little bit late, and I was afraid that they'd already started on their project. The problem was their project did not fit the timeline of this class, and so they had to come up with another idea, and that's the main reason why I have that. Okay, I'm sorry. I was like I said, my computer's being a little bit wonky. Another thing I'm hoping that you guys do is, like I said, I have been going through and grading the stuff as I see it. The last 2 days, I didn't grade anything, so I'm working on that tonight, and it probably won't be until tomorrow that I get all that caught up. But I want to make sure that if you guys see that I haven't graded something, like you've made discussion comments that I haven't seen or anything like that, please email me through my university email or text me on my cell phone. If you do text me, give me your name and the class you're in and say, hey, I turned these things in. Would you please make sure that the grade is up to date? Because I want to make sure that everybody gets all the points that they've worked for. And I will also be going through and all the assignments. I think the last assignment due date is actually going to be on the 12th, and that's the attendance for this week. Everything else, the assignments are all due this week. So as soon as that happens, I'm going to zero out everything that wasn't turned in. I'll have a zero there. And again, if you see a zero, that is just a reminder for you to get that assignment turned in. All right. Now, does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff in the class that we've done? All right, I'm gonna stop for a second and try and find the final project page, because I'm hoping that as people get their final projects done, please remember to post them in the discussion so everybody can see them. And I'm getting to that now. Okay. Just take me a short half an hour here. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to the discussion section, and it looks like we have 5 final projects that are turned in. And I want to share those with you. Aubrey, that is not a tiny dog. Right now we have in the house, we have a Chihuahua.
He's a Bernedoodle.
Bernedoodle.
Yep. His name's Moose. Huh.
In our house right now, we have a Chihuahua, a Airedale Terrier, and a standard poodle. And it's so funny that the little 3.5-pound dog is queen, and she won't let the other dogs get away with anything. I'm sorry, my computer's frozen up again. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get this taken care of. There we go. I don't know why the computer's being so slow. Now, what this person did is she did a PDF of her works cited, which is great. And then she also did a mosaic and a video of that. So let me see if I can pull up the video really quick here. All right. I want to show this with you, share this with you really quick.
For my final project, I decided to recreate a portion of a mosaic. While this specific mosaic, entitled The Good Shepherd, came a little later than the 16th century, the idea is the same. I mostly just used this mosaic as inspiration for the design and the colors. Mosaics date clear back to the 3rd millennium, or 3000 BCE, specifically in Byzantine architecture. A mosaic is made of small pieces of glass, ceramic, or other medium, placed together to form a larger picture. For my mosaic, I used stained glass. I began by sketching out the design. It is free-handed and not very symmetrical, as I felt it would illustrate the arched design on the original mosaic. It incorporates a design similar to botanical features, so I added small flowers as well. I hand cut each of the pieces of glass and placed each piece using tweezers onto a glued wood surface. Here are some progress pictures. Once the background was finished, it was time to add grout into the cracks. I used gray grout, hoping it would add more contrast, but I actually think I used the wrong color, as I like the mosaic better before the grout. If I ever make another mosaic, I will have to learn more about choosing grout colors and what they do to the overall piece. I used a rubber grout float to spread the grout into each little crevice and gently wiped off the tops of the glass with the grout sponge. I also think I needed to be more thorough with this step because scrubbing the grout off the glass the next day was very strenuous. But here is the final mosaic. After 5 straight days of work, I was finished. Luckily, my sweet son likes the final piece and wants me to hang it in his room. There is a lot I would change about it knowing what I know now, but I'll take the approval of a 5-year-old for today. Thank you.
Okay, so that was one project. I was hoping to show the other ones from the class so that people could see what other people had done. And I am just a little bit aggravated because my computer keeps freezing up, and I don't fully understand why. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you just
Okay.
fine.
Okay, but you can't see me now?
No.
Okay. All right, I don't know why the camera got shut off. Okay, so I'm trying to find another one. I wanted to show like a PDF of a final project. I thought that that was a good one. The design inspiration came from the wrong period, but in her citations and everything else, she's actually drawing an awful lot of her research from Roman and Byzantine mosaics specifically. Let's see. All right, and here's another one that I thought was really interesting. Okay, what this person did was a research deep dive into Islamic art, specifically by learning about Islam. And they interviewed an imam. There's one on campus here, and they kind of outlined everything that they had wanted to do on this, and they were using it as an opportunity to kind of understand everything that went into Islam that informed Muslim art. And so this was really an interesting one because it took quite a while for them to do the interviews and then collate the information and then find rationales that linked, for example, Islamic fashion with the religious foundation behind it. And then why calligraphy was so prominent and everything. So I thought that this one was really kind of a fun and interesting project because they weren't just examining the art itself, they were trying to get at what was behind the art, you know, what was the reasoning for people to actually do it. And then there was actually another let's see. All right. Aubrey did one that I thought was really interesting too. And we have a video here of it. Well, she did a couple different projects. I'm trying to find her final project here. Here we go. All right.
Gordian, not Mosaic by Aubrey Hill. All right. At this moment in time, I have all of the materials. I do not have all the materials that the ancient Romans would have used in specific, but I was able to gather some materials containing some stained glass, glue, mortar, concrete backing, stones, and some tile clippers and a frame. It is during this time in the video where I am kind of sketching out where I want this Gordian knot to take place within the frame and the concrete backing. And I have my amazing friend Emma who creates these fantastic mosaics, helping me along the way, teaching me. This was my very first mosaic. And so in that previous clip, we were just cutting all of the stained glass with the tile clippers. And this is where I am trying to draw on the Gordian knot. My ADHD did get in the way of this just because the lines were not as precise as I would have liked them to be. A little bit about the Gordian knot and why I chose that in specific to do a piece of work on. So the Gordian knot is actually kind of a really cool subject. It was very common to the Romans as a motif to use in mosaics, and the story behind it is takes place during Alexander the Great's time. And it is a story where he's traveling along the way, and he is getting to Turkey, and upon arriving to the city, he runs into like a merchant or a mercenary, and there's a something tied with a bunch of different types of knots, like a rope, and he tries to unwind it, and he gets all tangled up with the rope, and eventually he frees himself, and he takes his sword and he slashes the knot. This is where I'm showing you me halfway done with the mosaic, but the moral of that story is conquering the unachievable. So kind of, defying all odds. So I thought that was a beautiful concept, and I loved how it was placed in our history, just in everyday usage by the Romans. Now, I would like to reference that I chose a couple of colors that didn't necessarily match with the reference picture, just because I preferred their meaning a lot more. I chose blue because that, to the Romans, that symbolized tranquility and divinity, and green for beauty. I had some black and gray accents just to kind of allow those colors to pop. But also, if you can't tell, I'm adding in these little gray pieces in conjunction with those stones, which I was hoping would kind of act as like cobblestone, as if this was lying on the street and you were just walking across it. Here is a reference video of what this mosaic looked like before it was grouted. I got very lucky. This was my very first mosaic, and I think this has actually inspired me to do many more mosaics. I'm gathering all of the tools that I need, and so it is thanks to this project that I think I have another hobby. That's great. My husband probably enjoys that, but anyways, I really appreciated this project. I really loved learning about all of the ways to be able to preserve mosaics and the preservation tactics that the Getty Museum used, which did help me along the way in creating this mosaic. Thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Aubrey was really, really weird. That last page with their citations, everything was in the correct format. Everything had the accessed on date, and everything was in alphabetical order. So next time I see her in the hallways, I will be stapling 3 gold stars on her forehead. So excellent work. No, and I love that kind of the diversity that people have of the different projects they're doing. Each one is very different. So the first one we looked at, the person was interviewing an imam and doing a deep dive researching the theology behind Islamic design. And then we looked at, and then 2 different people did mosaics. And I thought it was really cool to hear that voiceover and kind of hear what Aubrey was doing and what she was thinking, why she made the decisions that she did. I always enjoy that. And these are projects that are not simple to do. So I'm trying to find another project. Okay, this is the one that we saw last week. I want to just look at that really quick again so that everybody can ooh and ah just a little bit. I'm just impressed. When I say 10 hours, most of you guys, and this is true of almost all the students that I've met at Utah Tech, you initially think, holy crap, how can I get 10 hours? And then you start working on it, and the 10-hour project ends up being 15 or 20 hours. And this Cologne Cathedral, it was started in the 12th century, and Jacob went into his Minecraft interface and rebuilt the Cologne Cathedral in Minecraft. I think, you guys remember us looking at that last week? Oh no, no, Jacob was the only one that was with me last week. Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was pretty amazing, seeing that. And then he was talking about some of the history of the construction and the geometries that they used, different things like that. And it was just really neat to see that. Let's see, and then, right. Okay, and here's another one that I think is really cool. And I see, I think that's from the discussion, but I'm pretty sure I have it in our YouTube channel as well. Okay, here we go. I think this is really a fascinating one too.
My final project for our art history class, I decided that I wanted to recreate a mask of my own. Throughout history, almost every civilization that we have studied and some that we have not has had a history with masks, whether that be purposes for protection from during wartime or disease, whether that be funerary with death masks, whether that be religious or spiritual in ceremony relating to gods and goddesses, or whether it be ancestral masks representing spirits of humans or animals that were important to that civilization, or whether it be for theatrical purposes and masks that were used and created for theater. So I wanted to look a little more specifically into masks that were representing different gods and goddesses. And many different cultures have masks that relate to the gods and goddesses of their society, whether that be from the Inca and the Mayan, whether that be the Mongolians, or in Egypt with the Egyptian gods. It fascinates me that each culture kind of had their own set of gods and made masks and statues and artwork to represent them and what they did in their society. So I then wanted to look specifically at sun gods. And many different civilizations have a type of sun god, most of them being in South and Central America. And so these are three that I found. On the top left, we have a mask representing the sun god from the Inca Empire. On the top right, we have a mask representing the sun god from Bolivia. And on the bottom in the middle, we have a mask representing the sun god from the Mayan culture. Within each of these cultures, the sun god played an important part in their society and in their beliefs. Sometimes the sun god was connected to renewal and rebirth. Also, it could be connected to change. The sun god could also be connected to fire and burning, or to life giving as well. And so they have some different meanings based on which culture and which society you look into. So I decided that since the sun has always meant a lot to me, I wanted to go through and create a mask representing my version of the sun god. To me, the sun has always represented life giving or renewal, a new day, right? Peace at night as it sets. And so I wanted to create my own version. I decided to use cardboard for my basis. And then I use a variety of different tools like a compass, a ruler, an X-Acto knife, some scissors. So here you can see I start to create the basic shape. And then I used a cardboard roll that was cut down to get those shapes on the face as well. I then started to add a few more details and cut out the rays that were going to go behind the sun. And I decided I wanted 2 different layers because the sun is powerful and has lots of different things. And then I wanted to add a little bit of texture. So you can see that I started to take off some of the layers of the cardboard so that you can see that inside texture to shine through to give it a little bit of variety. And then once I had all the pieces and knew where I wanted them to go, I then needed to paint them. So I labeled them all on the back and then painted them all individually. I decided to use some metallic paints because I really wanted it to have that shine and that sparkle when the light hit it. Then I let those dry for a while. And once those had dried, you can see there in the middle that I started to put all of the pieces together. And I really kind of like the effect that you start to get with the different pieces and the different colors of paint and the different textures shining through as well. And so then my finished product looks like this. And I don't have a name for my sun god, but I did decide to me that it means burning, changing, alive, just in the sense that the sun is always burning and changing, and yet it still remains the same. You know, the sun is kind of like a living creature that is always shining, always giving off energy, always recreating itself, and yet still existing as the sun as we know it. And so I really kind of liked that idea and that imagery for my life as well. And so this is my final piece of my sun mask. And then these are the websites and things that I looked into to get a little bit of history and a little bit of history on sun gods and what they have meant to the people of the past.
Now, looking at those 5 different projects, there's a couple things that I'm hoping to point out that will, if you are still working on it, maybe it'll give you more flexibility. Aubrey and Jacob both used a direct historical reference to recreate something. And they did it in, Aubrey chose to try to use contemporary tools that were as historically close as possible. And Jacob made it in a completely digital environment. Then we also have the one about Islam. That was just, that was sheer research into the rationale behind the decision making for the cultural art. And then we have both the Sun Mask by Brittany, and then the other one that we saw, that the other mosaic that was inspired by Byzantines. Both of them made something very contemporary, but they used as historical references to inspire them moving forward. So, so one was a research that delved into rationale behind decision making for design. 2 of them were bringing historical elements into contemporary creative language, and then 2 of them were using the historical reference points to inspire something contemporary. And and also all 5 of those worked really well. So how many of you have not done the project but are on the way that are working on it? All right, good. Excellent. I'm hoping that you guys don't get too stressed out about this. I know you have a lot of stuff on your plate. Usually this is where all the classes that require writing have you write something phenomenal as well. And I want to reiterate about our final. Our final is just going to be 4 questions, and the essay portion of it is not going to be super long. I'm not asking you to write a 5,000-page paper. It's essentially just 75-word answer to each of 5 different questions. So the whole thing needs to have a word count of at least 300 words. And just by your comments when you raise your hand, I know you guys have absolutely no problem verbalizing. So if it helps, you can talk out the answers with your roommate or a slow running friend, and then just after you visit with them, write that down and then use that to submit. And again, that will go online on the morning of the 13th, so on the morning of the 9th, so you have 5 days to do it. All right, does everybody understand all that? Did looking at these 5 projects help anybody with what they were doing? Okay, good. Just Jacob, how many hours did you spend so far on the Minecraft Cologne Cathedral?
Tried to stay in that 10-hour range, but I think I went over by like an hour just to try and because I was trying to figure things out. So probably
Okay.
up to 10 to 11.
Okay. All right. Good. And that's actually pretty good. Somebody else is doing a deep dive into historical art informing contemporary video games, and so far on this 10-hour project, they've spent about 16, 17 hours, and they're not quite done. So if you guys are enjoying it, that's fine. I just don't want you to stress about it. Right. Does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff we talked about today? All right, then I want to just reiterate one last thing, and this will be important if you still have weekly reflections to do. Remember the 4 tools of artistic critique that will help you as you inform your writing as you move forward. And that is, the first one is describe. Talk about what you're looking at. For example, and sometimes that is not going to be a physical object. For example, the one about Islam, the description for that would be, what is the rationale behind the design of Islamic art? You know, what is the common thread? And that's what the person addressed. And in order to get there and make their outline, they had to describe what that situation was that they wanted to know. The second one is analyze, and that's where you figure out how whatever it is you're describing was made. The third one is interpret. This is where you dive into the history. Like Aubrey talked a little bit about what the Gordian knot meant. One of the stories was that the East would only be conquered by the person who could undo the Gordian knot. And that's why Alexander felt it was so important to get there. And when he got there, he got so fed up with it that he finally just gave up on tying it and pulled out his sword and shredded it to ribbons. So he still undid it. And it effectively, the gates to the east were opened for him because he did manage to conquer them. I think it's a good example of out of the box thinking. But Aubrey was able to talk about what that knot meant to the culture that had produced it. So that was really good. And then the last is evaluate, and that is whether or not it's successful. And I think that since the art that we're looking at is all, almost all at least 1,000 years old, it stood the test of time. So it all is pretty well successful. And I hope your projects are as well. All right, well, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. That's all I have today. Did I cover everybody's questions or concerns about what's going on in the next week or so? Okay, all right, good. Excellent. Then I will look forward to visiting with you online later on, but we are not going to be meeting as a class again. If you do need to ask questions of me directly, please email me through the university email system or text me directly on my cell phone. And there's been a few of you who had questions about their final projects that had me give them a call, and that worked out really well too because we were able to talk things through, and I appreciate that. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and I really hope you have a terrific. I mean, this sounds odd, and it can only be said in a university setting. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful finals week. Good luck. You won't have a problem at all. And I look forward to seeing you guys around in the hallways.